Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
Series 9 is brought to you with Lava Light. Whether you're a novice gardener, specialist grower, or houseplant enthusiast, Lava Light can help you to nourish and protect your plants all year round. The collection comprises 8 different horticultural growing media and pest control products, each continually offering the same natural benefits from thermal protection and moisture retention to soil conditioning and continued nutrient boosts. Derived from volcanic deposits, Lava Light is completely natural and sustainable. Look out for it online or in your local gardening stores.
So we are with Faye Adams today, who is the garden supervisor of the Alpine, Rock and Aquatic Gardens here at Kew Gardens, and we are really looking forward to finding out more about alpine plants in particular, those tiny little lovely flowers, the miniature little plants that we see around. And the best news, you'll always have space for more, won't you? Right. Welcome
Exactly,
to the podcast.
yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, you look after tons of different plants here at Kew, don't you? Like, just tell us what a day in the life of your role is. What do you do? Like, when you rock on up in the morning, tell us through the day.
So this is an interesting one. I always get asked this, and it is the most difficult question to answer because there isn't really a typical day, which sounds a bit of a cop out of the question, but in Alpine, like, we've got 6,500 different accessions. And this ranges from, we've got alpine cacti from Patagonia to tiny little, the really cute little Juno irises that you find in Central Asia, and everything you can imagine in between. So all of these plants have different requirements, different dormancies, and we're growing them in quite a range of habitats. So we've got our nurseries, dedicated alpine nursery, we've got our Davis Alpine display house, and then we've got the rock garden, which is like a vast expanse of so many microclimates, and it's a historic landscape as well, the rock garden. So we're growing them in all these different areas. So it's kind of, our day is as diverse as the collections, really, and each day is different, and each day is a new challenge and quite a steep learning curve. So it's a really difficult one to answer because I'm sort of feel like I'm always rushing around like a headless chicken kind of thing, like keeping on top of all these plants. And I mean, it's a wonderful job to have, but it's quite a difficult one to answer that.
And how many in the team for you?
In the team, well, there's me supervising, and then we've got 4 members of staff. And then we also have students as well, so I can have up to 5 students that we're training on the job at the same time. So yeah, we can be and volunteers. I can't forget our lovely volunteers.
Of course. So that's a lot, isn't it? So you've got the plants and people.
Plants and people to manage. Yeah, I think the plants are probably easier than the people.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
We've got a lovely team of volunteers as well. So we've got 11 volunteers at the moment that come in 3 days a week and just beaver away and really help us out.
That's really good. All those plants, they need help, don't they?
They do, yeah.
You know, I was thinking actually when we were, before we came in here to record, we had a little walk around, and it's been just completely off track. It's been such a hot, dry year, hasn't it? And I was kind of looking around at them all thinking, wow, they're all thriving and looking great.
Yeah.
But also, does that mean people's attention are going to move towards rock plants a little bit more with the climate changes we've experienced?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So, like, alpine is is actually quite a broad spectrum term. So you've got true alpines, which are the ones that you find in, well, actually not just mountainous regions of the world, because it has a lot to do with latitude. So if we go to like Greenland and Svalbard, alpines are actually found at the coast, but then if we head to Kenya, you've got to go up 3,000 meters before you hit alpines. So it has a lot to do with latitude. But they're the true alpines. And actually, I've heard this phrase quite a lot, and it's the escalator to extinction. Which it's very dramatic, but it really kind of sums up what's happening to alpines. They're kind of at the forefront of climate change. They're like the front line. There's glaciers that are melting, and their habitat is so fragmented. They can't just move mountain range, and they can't go any higher up. So that's why this kind of term escalates.
They're on the tip of everything.
They're on the tip of everything. Yeah. And it's becoming, for true alpines, it's becoming increasingly inhospitable in the London climate to grow them. The other growers are more successful in sort of in Edinburgh and further north. But then alpine also is a term that encompasses horticultural alpines, which, like you said in the intro, is like the small plants that are suitable to rockeries. And a lot of these are from Mediterranean regions of the world, which includes South Africa, South Australia, and like Patagonia and areas of Chile. So, and they're the ones that are suited to this hotter, drier climate. So looking at those Mediterranean bulbs, the cushion plants from like Afghanistan and Iran, and they're small, they're incredibly beautiful. You can grow them in a trough, so you don't need much space. And I think they're the ones that we should be looking at growing, definitely. Right. And then the true alpines is a lot more difficult, unfortunately.
So you've got kind of true alpine and Mediterranean alpine.
The sort of the small, the larger group of small acute plants that the Alpine Garden Society grows.
And just one further bit of terminology just to clear up. When is an alpine a rock plant, and when is a rock plant an alpine? Is it the same thing or different things, or what's all that about?
All that confusion. Okay. So an alpine, the strict definition is a plant that grows above the permanent tree line but below the permanent snow line.
Okay.
Hold on. I have to get this in my mind. Above the permanent tree line and below the permanent snow line.
Which will be higher than the tree line.
Which will be higher than the tree line.
That's not a big...
It's a very narrow,
altitude. Actually, right?
It is to do with altitude, and so when you start to get into that above the tree line, the trees don't grow higher. There's temperature restrictions. There's soil. The soils get thinner. There's less nutrients, and then you get this small little strip of habitat in which alpines are found, like the true alpines. Whereas if you're talking about plants as a rock garden plant or a rock plant, they could be from any rocky region of the world. So you could find them on cliff faces and in coastal areas of the Med or Rocky Mountains somewhere in North Africa or something like that. So they're rock garden encompasses anything that grows in a rocky habitat.
So it's more of a casual term.
It is more it's more of a sort of broad sweep of a term.
Okay. Before we move on with the question, I realise we haven't asked too much about your background.
Okay.
So tell us kind of where you were obviously growing plants when you were young. Where did you study? How did you end up being, the boss of the Alpines?
So boss, not sure the team would agree with that.
I don't know why, but I'm obsessed with the word boss.
So I actually career changed into horticulture.
Oh, really?
So
what from? Can we guess? This
go
on,
really have fun. A guess.
Give us some clues.
Still a physical job.
Yeah.
I took a lot of training from when I was very young.
Physical job.
Ice skater.
Training from when...
No, I wish. No.
We need another clue. They're quite vague.
Still an active job.
Was there a product or a thing?
It was. It involves audiences.
Oh,
that's quite a big clue.
Were you in the Olympics?
No.
I was going to say, were you a sports person?
Getting close.
Oh.
Yeah, we could be guessing for a while, couldn't we?
What's the first
letter? B.
Ballerina.
Yeah.
No,
oh my god!
That's so
as a professional. Well, I switched to contemporary kind of later on in my career. So I worked as a professional dancer for many years, and then had an injury, but had to rethink career options. But actually, I see now it was the best thing that ever happened, because horticulture is way better than dancing.
Did you decide horticulture? Did you have some inkling in your childhood or some?
Well, actually, no. So I'd always been given a section of my parents' garden to look after. So it kind of was in there already. And I remember I was about 14, and my mum was like, "You shouldn't be a dancer. You should be a horticulturist."
Really?
And
that's the opposite of what most parents would say.
She was like, "No, you need to be a horticulturist." And I think
have great parents.
My first question was like, "Well, what the hell is a horticulturist?" I was like, "What is it?" And she was like, "A gardener. You need to go to Wisley and train." And
it's so cool.
Yeah, so that's what my mum said to me when I was 14, and then all these years later, I'm kind of a horticulturist, but I'm not going to say, she's not going to say I told you so, because I didn't go to Wisley, I went to Kew, so she wasn't completely right on that one.
Do that with my parents. They can't be completely right.
Yeah, exactly. You were almost right, but I didn't go to Wisley, I went to Kew. I changed into horticulture, and actually spent a year volunteering at lots of different gardens, trying to get that experience, making sure it's the thing I wanted to do, because it is tough, and it's going through winter, it can be quite a drag, and it is quite physical, and I had to make sure it's what I wanted to do. So I did a lot of volunteering, and I was pretty dead set that this was for me.
That's amazing.
And then gradually went through an apprenticeship at Fulham Palace, which was just an amazing experience, and then was lucky enough to get on the Kew diploma, and then trained here.
Oh my god!
How fabulous is that?
And then rose through the ranks.
Went away, got some experience elsewhere, came back
as the boss.
As the boss, yeah.
Are you sometimes seen dancing through the grasses?
No. But do you know what's amazing actually in horticulture is so many people career change. And so into horticulture, and it's often a lot of my students at the moment, they're from arts backgrounds, artists, people who worked in digital media and graphic design, and so there's a lot of artistic, there's something that pulls artistic people into horticulture.
Oh, wow.
And
it's fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Horticulture is really creative. It's like art, isn't it?
It
in a way, anyway. So I can definitely see that.
And it just, what really attracts me to it just encompasses so many things. Whatever your interest is, there's an area of horticulture, because there's research, history, there's science, there's geography, geology, there's the artistic side of it, creating displays, designing, there's the construction side. I worked with a team building a Chelsea exhibit, and so there's a little bit for everyone. So I never understand why anyone does anything else. I
think we agree, don't we?
Are you converts? Are you going to come and train at Kew?
I do know what I would literally love to train at a garden so much, but
what we should do, I wonder if you do this, we really wanted to do a thing where we work for a day, and a place puts us to work. If Kew wants to do that, then we have to come and dig for a little bit. Only a day though, no longer.
Only a day. One day of digging.
Someone doesn't like to get their hands too dirty.
I do.
Supervisory role, I think.
I'll be the boss.
Anyway. Okay, that is all absolutely amazing. Back to Alpines.
Yeah.
So we're talking
what we should do there, if this was a website, we should add a link to our career change episode.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Yeah. I think we've had a couple of people who've talked about career changing, actually.
Yeah, because August Gardens, she was air stewardess. That was very interesting as well.
I could think of something else we've done as well before that too. Anyway.
We'll pop a link just here.
Yeah.
Bing. Wouldn't that be cool if you could pick... Yeah, sorry. I'm on a tangent now.
Yeah.
Just, your top is so tactile.
I know.
Keep doing
it's ASOS.
Okay, so we were talking about this very small strip, if you like, of two alpines that grow above the tree line and below the snow line, and that would make you feel like it's virtually impossible to grow alpines at home.
Yes.
Can we? How can we?
Yeah, and people do, and there's like a great network of growers that grow not only true alpines but also horticultural alpines, and there's a lot of national collections within the UK of growers that hold the biggest number of species and cultivars for that type. I think the big thing, obviously temperature is becoming increasingly difficult in the southern part of the UK, but a big thing is controlling rainfall. It's the winter wet, and actually keeping them frost free, because a lot of these alpines will be covered by a sort of blanket of snow during the winter, so they're actually exactly. And then it also keeps them very dry during a period of their life cycle, and then they actually suddenly get an input of water as the snow melts, and then the growth starts. So it's a lot about controlling irrigation and controlling dormancies and keeping some of these plants frost free. So there's ways you can do that at home if you've got even just a little cold frame. You don't even need a small alpine house or a greenhouse, just a cold frame or something like that. Or if you've got a tufa and you want to grow some of these plants that maybe don't like so much winter wet, just put a little cover over them in winter, you know.
Tufa is the soft rock, right?
Yes, yeah. It's a limestone rock that has this really amazing honeycomb structure. And we plant directly into it. So we wash all the soil off the plants, so we've got a completely bare root. Just drill a hole in the rock, put the plant in, and backfill with all the bits that have come out when we drilled. So they're just in pure mineral.
Because then you can plant them on angles so they don't collect the winter wet as well.
Exactly, yeah. And
that's why alpines are indeed vertical a lot of the time,
on a lot of rock crevices. And that's what we do on the rock garden is we really exploit all those little microclimates, because the topography is so interesting. It's unlike anywhere else within Kew. So we're constantly analysing, does this get more or less rainfall? Is this a bit more sheltered? Is this a frost pocket? And that's something that you can do at home if you've just got, even with like a garden fence, or if you've got a little bit of an overhang of a porch, you know, you can exploit all those little areas.
I guess with the more Mediterranean alpines, they're kind of like true miniature forms of other plants, so they don't have the same winter fussiness, I guess.
Yeah,
fair to say.
Yeah, and a lot of them survive really well on the rock garden, and we give them no protection once they're established and they've got their roots in and all of that. Then that you pretty much leave them to their devices. And actually, some of the cyclamens, like Cyclamen graecum, that we've got on the rock garden at the moment, have absolutely loved this summer. Like, they like being baked dry in summer. So it's those kind of plants are becoming increasingly more suitable, and they're in flower now, and it's just this like immense display of
they're so beautiful,
these cyclamen carpets that we've got.
Cool. Wow. You also mentioned that the rock garden was historical. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the rock garden has quite an interesting history. It was one of the a really key character for Kew is Thistleton Dyer, and in, I think it was, I need to get my dates right, 1887, I think there was a donation of alpine plants to Kew. I think in total there was about 3,000 plants donated to Kew. And although there'd been a small rockery over by where the ice house is at the moment, there wasn't like a dedicated alpine garden. And rockeries were becoming increasingly popular in Victorian times, and there was a real push of, well, Kew should have one of these. So with this donation of alpines, one of the key stipulations was there needed to be a dedicated space. So Kew applied to the government, and the government gave them £500, which wasn't quite enough to buy all the rocks. So what they did is they excavated, where the rock garden is now, they excavated a central channel and banked all of that subsoil up on the side, bought a little bit of stone, and then just when they were breaking down like other areas and building works at Kew, there were bits of brick and stone and all kinds of rubbish just got put on to make the rock garden. So it was like a central path with this mounds of like rubble that they then planted up. And then over the years it's gone through like a series of big renovations, and the last one was in the 80s. and it was a renovation replacing all the original limestone for sandstone, and it took 12 years to complete. So it was massive.
Some of these projects are absolutely huge, aren't they, you know?
Yeah.
All for the love of plants.
All for the love of plants, yeah.
Talking of the love of plants, do you have any particular favourites?
Don't
worry, I hate that question too.
Yeah,
I usually just
stressful.
say iris. Iris is a good catch-all.
Yeah, but what is your favourite?
Oh, no, it's my public-facing favourite.
Oh yeah, you don't want to admit your real
My rehearsed
favourite.
favourite, yeah.
It's like, you know, what about the others that I don't say are my favourites? It changes seasonally. It's kind of
Okay, then we'll ask you one for each season.
one for each season.
Right, spring. You got maybe a window box at home. What are you going to put in there that's alpine and sexy?
Oh God, it's got to be the miniature iris, hasn't it? It's got to be those tiny miniature iris for sort of late spring. I mean, early spring you've got to have galanthus, the snowdrops, leucojums, the snowflakes. They're just beautiful. So then spring we're going into the small iris and the Dionysias. Oh my God, the Dionysias. The cushions, they are incredible.
To me, they always look really hard to grow. Am I right?
I mean, they are divas of the alpine world, I've got to say. But there's a lot.
They're spongy.
They're so amazing, and they're slow growing. But I mean, there's certain rules with how to deal with them, and I think if you get those nailed down, then you're all right. But we've just done cuttings of Dionysia at the moment. Each little rosette could be a new plant, so they're tiny little cuttings.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's right. So spring, that's wrapped up. It's interesting actually because some of those are bulbs, and people might not realise a lot of bulbs are alpines, right?
Especially in the wider definition of alpines, and then we move into summer. I'm trying to think of my favourite summer ones. The bulbs kind of we don't have so many during the summer. We move more onto the rock garden plants, and we start to get things like the gentians coming out on the rock garden. I have a real soft spot, so not an alpine, but they are on the rock garden associated with rocky areas. I have a soft spot for euphorbias.
Do you?
I do.
Controversial.
Yeah, that is controversial.
There's some really amazing ones that have brilliant sort of colours as they start to fade. Anything that dies gracefully, that goes into dormancy.
I love how lily of the valley die.
Yeah,
they kind of change for all this yellow and orange, and they melt.
Yeah,
like hostas. Hostas die beautifully as well.
Hostas look amazing.
Yeah.
Some of these plants are better dead than alive.
Oh yeah.
I have a real sauce of that, and this year one of my favourites, also because the seed heads are amazing, are serratulas. So we have a few different serratulas. It's in the Asteraceae family. So
I was going to say, I don't know what this is. Okay.
Can you spell that for me, please, Faye?
Literally, Michael is Googling it right now.
SE RRATULA.
Tinctoria.
That's one of them, yeah. So they when you get the seed pods, they look so beautiful.
It's kind of like a thistle in some ways, but obviously a lot more glamorous.
It's like a thistle stroke cornflower.
Yes.
Yeah. And this isn't so good for a podcast because it's on pictures, but you see this little kind of scaly looking bit underneath where the top bit of the inflorescence is. That's
like a cornflower, pretty much.
Yeah, that's the capitulum, that's called, and they're just so beautiful on this. A bit like on, I'm going to throw another plant at you, mutisias that have a beautiful capitulum.
Isn't it amazing how many plants there are, and no one could possibly know all of them?
Yeah.
This?
Yeah.
It's like an osteospermum.
Like it's
a sort of climbing, scrambling plant.
Climbing osteo. It's cool.
That's very nice. Yeah, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right, so what's your summer one? Euphorbia, these...
Serratulas, yeah.
So autumn.
Autumn, yeah.
Autumn. Oh, God.
Well, we're in autumn now.
We are in autumn now. The cyclamen look amazing.
Yeah.
The colchicums are amazing. I really like Achis. Achis is tiny.
Another one to Google.
This is a massive learning curve for alpines here.
Achis autumnalis.
How am I spelling that, actually?
ACIS.
Yeah.
Yeah, Achis autumnalis.
Oh, it looks like mini snowflake.
Yeah, and they
That's cool.
so
Autumn
tiny.
snowflake, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
What about the autumn snowdrops? Do you ever grow those here?
We've got one called Three Ships that comes out a little bit before Christmas. So it's named after the Christmas Carol.
That's cool.
And it's one of the ones that we do have on the rock garden, and it comes out and everybody sort of walks past and go, oh, climate change, that's out too early.
Oh my
but
God.
it is
Next thing, they've tweeted it. You kind of then got everyone piling in. I know how it goes.
Yeah, and it's one of those that's like, no, it is flowering at the right time.
I bet you like to stand there. I told you so.
Yeah.
Okay, winter. Well, alpines. I guess they're not doing much in winter. Are there a few that?
No, we have actually. Okay, so because we do grow some of our. Again, we're going back into the horticultural alpines. So some of our South African bulbs, obviously with the southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere seasons, it means that we're growing those, and we have in December actually in full flower we'll have a scilla that comes out.
Cool.
Right.
Actually, Scilla madorensis, so not a South
Quite a few
African
Scilla in
one.
there now, haven't you, in the display area?
Yeah, we've got quite a few Scilla now, and but Scilla madorensis comes out and it will flower like into December, and that's a real showstopper.
That's cool. What about some of those tropiolums? Because they're flowering in the off season, aren't they?
Yeah,
because I often see those in that big house that you've got there.
we've got pentaphyllum.
Oh, look at that. Sorry, we're just googling Scilla madorensis.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
It is an absolute giant beast of a plant. It's
flop.
incredible.
It looks like a cross between a hyacinth and a Muscari.
Yeah,
it's like a Muscari on steroids.
It is on an awful lot of steroids. So that will be.
Amazing.
The flower spike can be about 15-20 centimetres.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So they'll be in the Alpine house later on.
God, this is so indulgent talking about
I
plants we
know,
don't
and
know.
then learning all these new plants is absolutely incredible.
Sorry, I almost had you on the tropiolum track there. But we threw you back off, sorry.
So we had pentaphyllum in the Alpine house. So we've got a group that flowers sort of into the summer, and then a group that flowers more sort of winter, spring. So we do often have tropiolums going into the house. Yeah.
Wow. Let's try and bring this back to the listener a little bit though, because obviously alpines, they're small plants, but I think they could be the next big thing because you don't need much space. If you're on balconies, kind of planters, maybe stacked pots, would you recommend alpines for someone just gardening on a balcony if they're with that really small space? Do you think there's potential for alpines to get a bit more kind of airtime?
Of course, yeah. I mean, I'm biased because I grow them, and I think they're the best plants that you could grow, and I think the opportunity is just endless for discovering new plants all the time that people are growing, and I think they have a reputation for being kind of fiddly and sort of just retired people in glass houses.
But I think when people understand the two different types, almost, that kind of helps a bit.
I think it does help, and I think that there are definitely alpines that are easier and alpines that are more difficult. So I wouldn't recommend going straight in for some of the Patagonian violas and things like that, but maybe looking at some of the encrusted saxifrages, or they're also called silver saxifrages, and they are really beautiful. And if you've got tufa, you can grow them outside in this country. You don't have to worry about frost protection because actually a bit of frost helps them flower more. And there's lots of different cultivars as well that are maybe slightly easier to grow than the species. So there's all these different options, and I think it's definitely something that should be grown more by people. Yeah.
Do you think they're becoming a little bit more commercially recognised? Because I even noticed over the past couple of years, a local garden centre to me now has an alpine area, and I've never really seen that before. That's relatively new.
Yeah, and I think they are getting sort of a little bit more kind of airtime, if you would, in terms of battling it out with the recent trends of houseplants and all of that kind of thing. And I think what's really inspiring for me is that there's a lot more young people wanting to get involved in alpines, and it gives me hope that there's going to be future growers of these plants. And I think that's really important. Like it's definitely something worth getting into and worth growing, and it's also really important because, like I said, they're sort of on the front line of climate change. So the more people we've got that are interested in growing these, and the more we can grow in so many different situations, I feel like that can only help sort of awareness and long-term conservation. So,
well, I think sometimes with this, I think the solution for all of this is for somebody to invent a universal window box. Because we have so many houseplant addicts and obsessives now that are filling their house with houseplants, but they're not embracing outdoor plants whatsoever. And of course, to be fair, they won't have gardens, they won't even have balconies in some occasions. So if someone could invent a window box that you could really easily just flip onto your window, sits there, people could start growing outdoor plants, whether that is alpines, like we're talking about here today, whether that is bee-attracting plants, herbs, summer tomatoes. But the problem is window boxes are so damn hard to put up. And I can't use a drill. I don't know about you, Faye.
It is a difficult one, and it's I think like if somebody's got just a small amount of space, whether it's trying to get a window box in or just like a small pot outside their front door, they can grow alpines, and you don't need a lot of. I think the other thing with alpines is people think, I need a lot of fancy compost or anything like that. You could make a crevice garden in a pot, and you could just use, if you've got a few old like tiles off a roof or a bit of
quite creative.
You can be really
gardens,
creative, and you could create a crevice garden and plant like little saxifrages and put some bulbs or gentians in that, and you don't need any fancy compost. You could just use a bit of sand and grit and put that in, and job done. And
it's not as hard as it looks.
There's a lot of mystique
but I think
it.
Like, to be fair, I've heard what you've said today, and this discussion's been great, but I think alpines maybe they're still not being promoted in the right way, that we need to maybe differentiate between the true alpines and the Mediterranean alpines, which are Mediterranean alpines are maybe the plants in miniature, but the alpines, the traditional ones, are something kind of quite different that is more specialist. So maybe even in the garden centres, in these alpine rock garden inverted comma areas, they need to be laid out a bit more clearly with the ones that are true alpines and the ones that are kind of a bit more everyday, kind of you want a garden but you want it in miniature. This is kind of what you're looking at. So I think maybe we need to kind of make it a bit clearer to the public, and that's why there is still the mystique potentially.
And it's I think having phrases like rock plants and alpine plants so interchangeable, it does cause a lot of confusion. And I think when there's confusion in gardening, people that are maybe a little bit scared to dip their toe in the water, a bit like, there's a lot of feeling like there's a lot of research to do to know how to get there. So I think sort of combating that confusion is definitely one of the first stages. So it
can be confusing even for us, because I feel like I understand this much better now.
Definitely.
And I hadn't really appreciated that before. So if you are completely new to gardening and you just see alpines, rock gardens, whatever, you're going to go, what? I don't know what the difference is, or what does that mean to me?
And I dare say, I know we get a bit kind of nervous about this in the botanic world, but maybe the Mediterranean alpines, the kind of miniature plants in inverted commas, need a rebrand into kind of like shorter plants for container planting or something like that. And maybe because very often I see the alpine rock garden section is quite hidden away in the garden centre. Let's be more proud of it. Let's bring it out to the front, show people those options more clearly, and through the different seasons as well. It's not just about spring into summer, is it?
No, definitely. And I think the thing is with a lot of buying plants from garden centres is, especially with the bulbs, garden centres sell stuff that's in flower. So if it's not in flower, it's not going to be there. But actually for wanting to plant bulbs and alpines, you actually need to plant them out of season, with many plants out of season when they're not in flower, so they need to be easily available with a sort of, this is what it is going to be, but this is the time to buy it and plant it. Because with a lot of these plants, especially if you're growing them in crevices or rock gardens, if you buy them when they're in flower in summer and put them straight in a trough of sand, you really aren't going to have much success, and that's going to put people off. They'll buy a few plants, they'll struggle to get them through a 40-degree summer, and a few will die, and they'll go, oh, well, I can't grow alpines.
That's the same with any plants, though. And like, you'll often then hear somebody say, oh, well, I don't have green fingers because every time I plant a plant, I kill it. You know, and
it's not true.
It's not true at all. So I think there is a huge responsibility on the commercial world, you know, to sell at the right time of year for planting. Not necessarily all the plants that are in flowers, and to educate, like,
but I think that's maybe where independent places come into their own a little bit, and it's not always about the garden centre, and they do a great job of kind of education and looking quite glossy, but sometimes if you really want to get into stuff, you need to visit an independent and get that, you know, hand-picked advice.
Exactly. There's some like fantastic alpine nurseries out there and groups that you can get involved in, and everyone.
Feel free to name check a few.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna.
You don't mind at all, honestly.
I'm going to name. I'm going to name check Aberconway Nursery in North Wales. Amazing plants, amazing quality, really diverse, and it's family run. And they are so generous with their knowledge. And I found this a lot actually with a lot of the gardening world in general. Growers are generally so generous with their knowledge, and they will give you their tips, and they're like, you know, it's almost like, you know, a chef with a special recipe that wants to hold on to that secret ingredient. But it's in gardening, it's not like that. You're like, well, what compost are you using? How are you watering them? And they're just like, well, I'll tell you everything I do. And I think there's just this common, again, it's kind of back to conservation and wanting these plants to be grown and be appreciated. It's like there's no good holding on to like secret recipes. Everybody wants to share their knowledge because it's better in the long term for everyone globally if we can grow these plants.
And we need that succession, don't we?
Definitely, So I found that if you find out these specialist nurseries, like joining like the AGS or local alpine groups, there's loads of like actual groups on Facebook. Like there's a Juno Iris group, there's a Fritillaria group, there's a Saxifraga group.
But that's the thing about social media, it helped us find these people with niche interests. It opened up horticulture so much.
It did, absolutely did. And when we're talking about groups, where does the Alpine Garden Society fit into all of this?
Well, it's not really linked with Kew in any such way, but I mean, I'm a member of the Alpine Garden Society, and most of the team are, and a lot of people at Kew are. And it's a really great organisation. They run trips to look at alpines in the wild, so they do trips to Patagonia, Peloponnese, you know, I mean, who doesn't want to do that, whether you like plants or not, who doesn't want to... and then they're also trying to get younger people involved, so they recently ran a young person's conference, which I found very funny because I was classed as a young person for a little while. But so they ran that, and it was great because it was like all people of a similar age group that were working in the industry growing alpines, just coming together and again sharing knowledge, looking at plants in the wild. And there's lectures, there's a seed exchange. So if you're wondering where you can get hold of some of these plants, if you join the AGS, they have a seed exchange. And they have a trainee as well, so they're also training the next generation.
Wow, that's very cool.
I just joined up last week, by the way.
Yeah,
I did.
Everyone should join. Shout out,
Alpine Garden Society.
I love alpines. Oh my gosh.
Thank you so
can I ask
much.
one more question?
Yeah, you can ask whatever you like.
Have you got an alpine that you would dream to see in the wild?
I guess any of the ones in Chile, so some of the little
Calceolaria, the alien flower.
That would be amazing. And I was actually at an AGS lecture on Tuesday about Patagonian alpines.
The online one, I couldn't make it.
It was such a good lecture, and I was sort of looking at that going, I need to get to Chile.
What about these succulent violas?
I know.
The rosette ones.
Yes.
Oh my God, have you seen those?
No.
It looks like a sempervivum, but suddenly you've got this pansy flower coming out the middle. It's like, what are you doing?
and the Petunia patagonica with the massive petunia
oh my god, the checkerboard
flower.
kind of stripes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We have Petunia patagonica in Kew, but it's very hard to flower in cultivation.
Oh my God.
And then the little succulent violas.
Look at that, Ellen. Sorry, we're
Yeah, looking at the petunia
that's
flower.
stunning.
Gorgeous.
That's
Oh my
stunning.
gosh, oh my god.
Yeah, the little viola is very difficult in cultivation. So that's one not to start out on. Those
Have you got it here anywhere?
Don't try this at home.
No, we haven't been successful.
That's amazing.
They're just amazing.
Thank you so much for
you're
today.
welcome.
This has been so interesting, hasn't
definitely.
it?
Truly
It's
learned a
definitely
lot.
sparked my interest in alpines.
Start
much
growing
more.
alpines now.
I've got plans. Already.
Yeah.
Like when we chatted, I was sitting there thinking, I could do that. I've got an idea.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Really
Thank
cool.
you. It's been an absolute
You're
pleasure.
welcome.
Thank you for all the work you do as well.
Thank you.
Hey guys, if you want to find out more about the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew, you can actually tune into the second series of their very own podcast. It's launching on the 6th of October and it's called Unearthed: Journeys into the Future of Food. Enjoy! Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast News.
Your horticultural news roundup for the week.
Bees must be buzzing for the World Cup as research shows they can actually play football. In a series of experiments, bumblebees were seen repeatedly rolling a little wooden ball despite having no incentive to do so. They approach and manipulate these toys again and again. It goes to show once more that despite their little size and tiny brains, bees are more than small robotic beings.
A number of activities will be on offer as part of a trial to determine their effectiveness in helping teenagers to improve their moods. So, teenagers in some parts of England will have the chance to take part in activities such as surfing, dancing, roller skating and gardening to see if it leads to improved mental health.
Giant pumpkin thieves tried to steal a mum's mammoth veg before she managed to scare them off in her dressing gown. Kate Latimer rushed to save the 12-stone whopper after spotting two men on her driveway as she got ready for bed. She ran out saying, "Stop stealing my stuff." Kate says her giant gourd, which is almost 2 feet tall, is the biggest she has ever grown.
Isa Jamira is an activist, artist and farmer, wanting to get people excited about community gardening. Isa works at a community garden in New York City, teaching city dwellers about nutrition, composting and growing their own food. She's hoping that her work will not only get people more excited about farming, but will encourage them to fight back against climate change. You can find out more about Isa at The Artist Activist Farmer on Instagram.
Bird and birdsong encounters may improve mental health, a new study finds. One swallow may not make a summer, but seeing or hearing birds does improve mental well-being, researchers have found. The study, led by academics from King's College London, also found that everyday encounters with birds boosted the mood of people with depression as well as the wider population.
Redbridge's much-loved Adopt a Tree Pit is back following its success last year. There were more than 1,400 tree pits adopted by local people, helping bring the neighbourhoods into bloom. A tree pit is the area around the bottom of the tree. It's a community gardening initiative and gives local people the chance to show trees on their streets some love and boost biodiversity in Redbridge. If you are interested in adopting a tree pit, you can find out more on the redbridge.gov.uk website. Series 9 is brought to you with Lava Light. Derived from volcanic deposits, Lava Light can help you to nourish and protect your plants all year round. The collection comprises of 8 different horticultural growing media and pest control products. Look out for their colourful packs either online and in your local gardening stores.
The music for the Plant-Based podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.